I'm doing a little bit of painting at this point. This is the actual, it's the nozzle off the air intake. I want to paint everything before it goes back on. The car's completely original. It's never been restored before, but you know, the original surface is in a bit of a mess. Just flaky paint. There's no real rot. It's just surface rust. So I'm just going to roughly take everything off. This is a body file actually. That's quite sharp. I think that'll probably be 80 grit. I'll just go over the whole thing with the sharpest paper. The sharper the paper, the less effort it takes, quite frankly. And this will take quite a while. There's a fair old bit to do. You know, the whole air intake, and you know, there's various bits and pieces. I've got the cam covers, which I will not be cutting with the 80 grit. They're aluminium and they're not rusty, so I'll use a much finer paper on those. But, so it's just to give you a sense, and then we'll go for a slightly finer paper, 180 grit. No, that's what did I say? That was 80. I think this is 120. So of course I'll spend a good 10-15 minutes go over the whole thing, and then you just try to get the surface as shiny as possible and as reasonably smooth as possible before putting any paint on there. So that's reasonably scratch free. Then I'll use like a polishing paper. Actually, it's good for polishing for this. You know, it wouldn't be good enough if I was preparing the surface of the car, but it's good enough for this purpose. And that'll be, I can't remember what it is. I think it'll be about 240 grit. It's quite fine. So just rub the whole thing. I'm not going to do it all on camera. It's awfully boring to watch. It'll take about half an hour to do this trumpet, and that's relatively scratch free. It's got a few minor bits of rust, but nothing to worry about on. You know, that's the underside. You know, this it sits in the engine bay, sort of all hidden. I'll make a bit more effort on the actual holder that. Where is it? Right behind me. Right behind me here. I'll make a bit more effort. This is the actual holder that holds. It's nowhere near as bad. This is in a much better place, right up in the engine bay. This bit pokes. It pokes down towards the side of the radiator, and I suppose it gets a lot of moisture. But I just want this to be perfect. I'm going to try and preserve the original stickers. I'll clean them and I'll cover them over with masking tape, and I'll sort of sand and clean up around this and paint around it. It's not bad, you know, but I want it to be pretty perfect. You know, being as I've got it out, I've got the car stripped down. Cosmetically, I want to sort of do as much as I can. So, but I will try and preserve those original stickers. They were there, you know, since they came out of the factory. But yeah, it'll probably take me an hour, I would imagine, to clean these bits and pieces down. And the primer I'm going to use, I'm actually going to use an etch primer. This is not regular primer. This is an acid-based primer. You spray that onto very clean bare metal, and it etches. It's acid. It just keys into the surface of the metal. It doesn't sit on the surface. It etches very slightly, very much like when you see that etched glass. It gives like a slightly rough surface, and it gives it a good coat. You know, good key, good base. That won't flake off. Regular primer, it sort of sits on the surface. Almost like nail varnish on a lady's fingers, but it obviously it can peel off, whereas etch will not peel. If you're repairing a car body, on the bare metal you use etch first, then you use regular primer, then you use the top coat. I'm going to miss out the regular primer. This is, you know, these are inside the engine bay. They don't need to be, you know, they need to be cosmetically smart, but not sort of shiny and perfect in the way that. It will be on the car, on the bodywork. So etch primer with the top coat will be fine. I'll be using matte. So there's another bit in there. This is rubber. This is rubber. So I'll be painting that bit, you know, just to make the whole thing look as presentable as possible. And you know, it will be quite beautiful.